Chapter 12. My House is Your House. As the group finally arrived at the gates of William Stenhouse's mansion, they were greeted by an imposing tableau of wealth and legacy. The wrought iron gates, towering and ornate, loomed like silent guardians over the estate, bearing both the weight of Stenhouse history and the precision of cutting-edge modernity. As they drew closer, a concealed intercom sparked to life with a polite, measured voice. "Password required for entry, sir," announced Apollo, the estate's sophisticated AI, his tone refined and efficient. Nick stepped forward without hesitation. "Shefford," he said clearly, an ancestral code known only to a privileged few within the Stenhouse circle. At once, the gates responded, gliding open in near-silent synchrony. The driveway beyond revealed a vision of elegance. Marble statues flanked the path, their classical forms illuminated by soft, embedded lighting beneath the cobblestones. Fountains whispered tranquilly in the warm dusk, their waters dancing in perfect rhythm, a calculated symphony of wealth, taste, and restraint. Anne, James, and May were rendered momentarily speechless as they stepped through the threshold of grandeur. Every step further into the estate revealed yet more luxury, but none of it felt gaudy. The mansion exuded intention. Towering above them stood the Stenhouse Manor, a masterwork of architectural synthesis. Victorian intricacy graced its carved stone columns and stained glass windows, while sleek, angular additions hinted at the mansion's smart infrastructure. Glimmers of energy-efficient glass and steel framed the structure, making it a seamless blend of old-world artistry and contemporary genius. May's gaze wandered to the gardens lining the entrance. She paused, captivated. Amid the topiary and manicured hedges, she spotted rare blossoms, once thought lost after the devastation of the Grand War, now flourishing in curated beds. Their vibrant hues spoke of survival and rebirth, nature's quiet defiance against time and tragedy. Ascending the stone steps of the vast front porch, Anne pressed her lips together in a poor attempt to mask her giddiness. "I'm not going to lie, Nick," she said with a shaky laugh, eyes gleaming. "I don't know if I can contain my excitement." Nick chuckled, one hand resting on the ornate door handle. "Wait until you see the inside," he teased, leaning into the moment. "Prepare yourselves, you're about to step into another world." With a deliberate twist of the handle, the door opened wide, ushering them into the splendor of the Stenhouse estate. The interior did not disappoint. As the doors swung open, Anne, James, and May stepped into a world where the elegance of the past met the ingenuity of the future. The entrance hall was a marvel of retrofuturist design, a seamless blend of Art Deco opulence and cutting-edge technology. Polished marble floors shimmered beneath their feet, while ambient lighting embedded in the walls gently shifted in tone to suit the time of day. Dominating the grand foyer hung a spectacular chandelier, a sculptural cascade of refractive crystal and adaptive lighting, casting kaleidoscopic patterns across the vaulted ceiling. Above it, an intricately designed stained glass dome filtered natural sunlight into a mosaic of colours. James's jaw dropped in astonishment. "You guys, look at that chandelier," he breathed, pointing upwards in awe. May paused, her expression softening. The aesthetic reminded her of the high-rise apartment she had lived in as a child in Tianjin, sophisticated, serene, and curated with grace. The familiar elegance tugged at distant memories, stirring emotions she hadn't revisited in years. Before they could take another step, Apollo's voice resonated crisply through the mansion's hidden sound system, wrapping the room in polite charm. "Welcome home, sir. How was your visit to Covent Garden?" Nick smiled. "Better than expected, Apollo. I've brought guests. They'll be staying here for a while." The AI responded with smooth, practiced warmth. Acknowledged. "Greetings, Mei Shang, Anne Shang, and James Hunter. I trust you will find your stay both secure and comfortable." The trio exchanged startled glances. "Wait, how do you know our names?" James asked, brows raised. "I employ biometric recognition protocols, including facial scans and voice pattern analysis, via discrete optical sensors positioned throughout the estate," Apollo replied. "This allows me to identify individuals upon entry and tailor my responses accordingly." Anne looked around, wide-eyed. "This place is like something out of a sci-fi film," she whispered, admiring the lifelike holographic portraits decorating the hallways, some depicting historical figures, others abstract dreamscapes that shifted subtly as she moved. The mansion was alive with intelligent design, merging heritage with innovation. Every detail reflected William Stenhouse's forward-thinking vision, reverent of history, but determined to shape the future. A soft pulse of light traced itself along the floor, emanating from the base of the grand staircase. Apollo's voice returned. "Please follow the illuminated trail to reach your rooms. Each route has been color-coded to match the decor settings selected during your biometric scan. Room environments can be customized at any time using the wall panels beside the door. Should you require assistance with amenities, simply call my name." The trail of light split into 3 distinct paths, gently beckoning them forward. Anne and James, too excited to contain themselves, grabbed their suitcases and dashed up the staircase, their laughter echoing faintly in the high-ceilinged hall. May, ever composed, took her time. As she reached the middle landing, she turned back towards Nick. "Thank you, Nick," she said quietly. "Few people would offer this kind of generosity after such a short acquaintance." Nick offered a gentle nod. "You and your family seem like good people," he replied. "And after what you've been through, this is the least I can do. Those thugs won't think to look for you here." Her gaze lingered on him a moment longer, sensing the sincerity in his tone. "You're kind," she said softly, then added with maternal caution. "But I hope you can keep that promise. Safety is all that matters now." "I will," Nick said, his voice calm but certain. She gave a faint smile and continued up the stairs, disappearing into her room. Left alone for a moment, Nick glanced at the nanolinker on his wrist. The small device shimmered faintly, reflecting both light and resolve. He whispered under his breath, the words more to himself. "Don't worry. With this, no one is getting hurt on my watch." Meanwhile, as Anne, May, and James explored their luxurious accommodations, Apollo's voice gently interrupted Nick's quiet moment of reflection. "Sir, Master Stenhouse wishes to speak with you in his office." Nick let out a sigh, unsurprised. "I'm guessing you've already told him about our guests?" "Correct, sir," Apollo confirmed. "He also has additional matters he wishes to discuss. I shall allow him to elaborate in person." With a subtle shake of the head and a resigned breath, Nick made his way through the manor, crossing gleaming corridors lined with adaptive lighting and muted portraits. His footsteps echoed softly on the polished floor as anticipation and a flicker of unease settled in his chest. This wasn't just a family catch-up, not with William. He reached the office, a stately room tucked behind reinforced doors, disguised as a panelled study. Once inside, Nick locked the door behind him with a faint click, ensuring no one could disturb what was about to unfold. Walking with purpose, he stepped over to a particular floorboard. It gave the slightest creak underfoot, a secret only he and William knew. With 3 deliberate taps of his heel, the board triggered a concealed mechanism. The floor beneath him hummed softly as a hidden platform rose, surrounding him in a shimmering curtain of light. In a blink, the traditional office faded, replaced by a panoramic projection of an Arabian desert, golden dunes stretching across the horizon, punctuated by the occasional shimmer of heat. Simulated winds whispered faintly, adding to the surreal immersion. Nick found his uncle in the centre of the illusion, William Stenhouse, CEO of Midas Industries, billionaire and technocratic visionary, pacing with a whiskey tumbler in one hand and a secure comlink pressed to his ear. William's commanding presence dominated even this expansive virtual space. "Let me remind you," he said sharply to the person on the line, "I call the shots here. Whatever goes on in my company, I have the final word. Is that understood? Or would you prefer I take your little idea, patent it myself, and erase your name from the credits?" Nick stood quietly, allowing his uncle to finish. The call ended with a cold flick of William's wrist. "I must go," he said curtly into the earpiece. "I have far more important people to deal with than you." With a final touch to the J Banky device, he disconnected and turned towards Nick. The desert breeze faded to a silence weighted by authority. William gestured to a suspended screen hovering beside him. It displayed CCTV footage, grainy but unmistakable, showing Nick in the midst of a brutal altercation on the underground earlier that day, dispatching 3 members of the Lost with unflinching precision. "Nick," William said, his tone sharp yet controlled, "would you care to explain this to me?" Nick met his uncle's gaze with calm defiance. They were threatening the passengers. They were going to rob the carriage and kill a man in front of everyone. I couldn't just sit there and watch. William regarded him for a moment, then took a slow sip of whiskey, letting the silence stretch. Finally, he spoke, his voice lower now, more reflective, though no less authoritative. "I understand why you think that way," he said, "and I don't blame you for acting on instinct. But you're not some anonymous Good Samaritan. You're my nephew, and the Black Death is still out there, watching, waiting. If they even suspect you're alive, let alone fighting back, they'll come for you. And not just with thugs and petty dealers. With professionals." William paused, letting the weight of his next words settle before continuing. "However, as Zeus, that's a different story. You could go out tonight, patrol the streets, get a feel for the suit in a live environment. It'll help you familiarize yourself with the city and the people you're choosing to protect." The idea stirred something in Nick. A flicker of excitement danced in his chest, tempered by the gravity of what it meant. As a boy, he dreamt of becoming a police officer, imagining himself upholding justice, serving with honor, protecting the innocent from those who lurked in the shadows. But reality had soured that dream. Chief Inspector McGee, the man who ran much of London's law enforcement, was a name whispered in alleyways and courtrooms alike. McGee was untouchable, despite years of corruption charges, bribery allegations, and countless missing witnesses. Everyone knew the game was rigged. Working under someone like that would have meant compromising everything Nick believed in. But as Zeus, the rules were different. Zeus didn't need permission. He didn't answer to anyone's broken system. He was free to act decisively, without red tape, without compromise. In that armor, he could be the person he'd always wanted to become. Someone who stood up for the weak, who fought back against fear, who made the darkness think twice before creeping in. Nick's eyes narrowed slightly as he glanced towards his uncle. One question had been gnawing at him since the ride home, the weight of it finally too heavy to ignore. Uncle, did you have something to do with the news report saying it was the Xerxes who took down those gang members? William met Nick's gaze without flinching, a calm confidence in his expression. Yes, he replied plainly, with the faintest trace of pride. I had the segment re-edited. Any footage of you was removed before it went live. Nick blinked, stunned by the blunt admission. But why? William leaned back in his chair, his whiskey glass catching the virtual sunlight of the simulated desert around them. Because you're not ready to be seen. The fewer people who connect you to Zeus, the better. I did it to protect you. But that's lying to the public, Nick said, a note of hesitation creeping into his voice. It feels wrong manipulating the truth like that. William's expression hardened, not unkind, but resolute. Nick, we're not dealing with schoolyard bullies or tabloid drama. The people hunting you won't hesitate to go through 10 innocents to reach you. Today, they think it was the Xerxes who stopped those gangsters. That lie buys you time. William wasn't finished yet. Also, he said, his voice shifting to a more authoritative register, it's been brought to my attention that you've brought 3 people to stay at my mansion. With a flick of his fingers, 3 holographic ID files materialized in the air, each one rotating slowly. Mei Shang. Anne Shang. James Hunter. While I permit you to stay here, William continued, eyes narrowing, that doesn't mean this place is to become a sanctuary for strays. Nick met his uncle's gaze unflinching. You expect me to live here completely alone after my parents were murdered? His voice remained calm but resolute. Having people around, it helps. It keeps me grounded. William studied May's file more closely. A subtle crease formed in his brow. Interesting, he murmured. It says here Miss Shui Shang is a qualified homeschool educator. She's been teaching both her daughter and stepson on top of running a bar in Stevenage. Nick frowned, not quite understanding his uncle's sudden interest. William glanced up. I was going to enroll you in a private academy. Top security, high walls, the works. But if May is certified and can provide adequate tuition, it may be wiser to keep you here, under the radar. Less exposure, fewer variables. The idea caught Nick off guard, but he nodded. I already trust her. If she's willing, it could work. William didn't respond immediately. He turned away, walking over to a sideboard to refill his whiskey. Perhaps I was wrong to be so dismissive about you having company. Why not extend the offer to your friend? Jason? Was it? Nick's expression tightened. His name's Connor. Ah, yes, William replied, swirling the glass in his hand. Connor. Sorry. I forget. The other one still hasn't forgiven you for that incident 5 years ago. A flicker of anger crossed Nick's face, quickly reined in. His voice turned cold. I thought we agreed never to talk about that. William shrugged, unmoved. Perhaps, but speaking of the past, I received a message from someone you might want to hear about. Nick arched an eyebrow. Who? Susan Pankhurst, William said, raising the glass to his lips. She says she's coming over. Apparently she wants to see you. Nick froze. Aunt Susie? She's coming here? She is, William confirmed. Said she's long overdue a visit. The name stirred a wave of emotion in Nick. Susan, Aunt Susie, as he still called her, had been like a second mother once. She vanished from his life after the mysterious falling out 5 years ago, leaving only silence and unanswered questions. The thought of seeing her again flooded his mind with memories. Christmases filled with laughter, whispered bedtime stories, her warm voice telling him he was brave even when he felt broken. She was named my godmother, Nick said quietly. If anything ever happened to my parents, she was supposed to take care of me. William nodded slowly, and perhaps now she will. The desert projection around them began to fade, replaced by the stately lines of the office. William took the hint and waved his nephew away. Go on, Nick. You've had a long day. Enjoy what time you can with your guests. You too, Uncle, Nick replied, his voice softer now. He stepped out of the office, the door sliding shut behind him with a quiet hiss. As he walked through the corridor, his thoughts churned, not about the lost, nor the suit, nor even the Black Death. All he could think about was Susan. She was coming back into his life, and whether that would bring comfort or chaos, he didn't know, but he hoped, deeply, that it would be both.